Yeah.
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're ready.
Like with sunflower seeds, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we just have a few questions. The first one is, did you dream about any of the books we read?
Oh my god, I'm a mess. Can you repeat the question?
No. Does that ruin your experiment?
I don't think I had any dreams about the books we read. I'm curious, did you have any dreams about the books we read?
You know, I don't think I had any dreams about the books we read, although I will say I definitely had some dreams about class.
I didn't dream about any of the texts, but I'm pretty sure I dreamt about the class and being in the class a few times. I don't really remember what went on, but I'm sure it was hilarious.
Sometimes I dream, no, not sometimes, but like only for a few times I dreamed about Barry, which is my favorite character.
They definitely like influenced my dreams. So, and the movies we watched definitely like weird pictures from movies got in my head.
Probably the Pillow Man, because that one had pretty violent imagery, and I think my dreams have some pretty violent imagery. But maybe to some extent, the other the class discussions on on the books have probably affected my dreams at some point. Because I guess, you know, if dreams are like your brain trying to process what happened in the day, they might have had some subtle effect.
I think so.
No.
No, not at all, actually.
Probably too often.
Sometimes I laid awake at night thinking about the books and then fell asleep, so I don't know if that counts or not.
Definitely on the second day of the school year, like the second day of orientation, I was reading The Pillow Man before bed, and then I like turned off the light and I was alone in my room because my roommate wasn't there. And then my pillows started feeling really creepy under my head, and I thought I would probably have nightmares, but I didn't.
I had some sort of dream about Clockwork Orange last week. I think I actually had a dream about Dorian Gray.
I definitely dreamt about shame. Just like the settings of shame in terms of like the mountains and kind of dropping off after the mountains. I've definitely like used that as a set piece.
I remember I had dreams of Mrs. Dalloway, which was interesting.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few, actually.
No. I only watched part of Apocalypse Now, but no, I finished all the books.
I didn't finish Mrs. Dalloway because it just, the writing style just got to me.
I didn't finish Mrs. Dalloway.
Mrs. Dalloway, Salome.
I haven't finished Mrs. Dalloway or In Cold Blood.
Yeah, I didn't finish Dispatches, to be honest.
I didn't finish Dispatches just because I just couldn't, I couldn't get through it. It was a lot of the same kind of language.
I didn't finish Dispatches. Didn't get to the very end of that one.
I don't think I finished Dispatches. I don't think I've had more than like 50 pages of that.
I haven't finished Clockwork Orange. I haven't finished Dispatches.
No, actually. Dispatches was close.
No, I finished all of them. I was really into like doing all the work.
I finished all the books. Some took me longer than others, I will admit.
There were no books that I didn't finish. I read all of them. Let that be known.
No, I finished all of them. Dorian Gray was a struggle. Dorian Gray fucking sucked to read for me. I really did not enjoy the action of reading it, but I did finish it.
I actually finished all of them.
I finished one or two of the books after we had already finished them, which was a little embarrassing.
I guess the only books I had finished were like the first 3, I think.
It's kind of a tricky question.
Yeah, totally. I think that was my only gripe with the class, is that we went through so many books that we didn't spend time on.
I think they all deserved their time. Like, there were books I didn't like, but that doesn't mean that like talking about them wasn't valuable.
I think we could have spent less time talking about Apocalypse Now, but that's just me because I didn't enjoy the film.
Oh, I thought that Caravaggio was a total waste of time. I hated that movie, it was awful.
We just quickly glossed over Dispatches and like, we were mostly talking about Apocalypse Now.
I wish we could spend more time on shame, maybe.
Flippers. Okay, I didn't like Clockwork Orange because all the auditory parts of it annoyed me, and we spent forever. But then again, I didn't really like Caravaggio, so I'm glad that we didn't spend that long on it.
A lot of our discussion of Salome was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, and then like beginning to untangle that, but I felt like we didn't really get into it as much as I would have liked.
Every single book I felt like we could have spent at least half a semester on and not run out of things to say.
I mean, I probably could have talked about it in Cold Blood for a long time, but we had to move on at some point.
Well, I feel like there's so much more to say about all of the books, you know? Like, I really don't feel like I've finished any of them. And I also want to talk about things that we did in the beginning, like in the context of stuff we read later, you know?
I mean, the ones that I liked the best, I wanted to just keep going with, like, I guess The Pillowman and In Cold Blood.
Probably like Mrs. Dalloway and A Picture of Dorian Gray. But I feel like we spend a lot of time on Picture of Dorian Gray.
I really liked Shame, and I wish we would have spent more time on it. Like, I wish we would have spent more time on the end of Shame, because that was definitely I think my favorite thing that we've read.
I think you did fine. You did fine.
I'd say the most shocking moments, and I think a lot of people would agree, would probably a lot of the Vietnam photographs we looked at. A lot of those were really especially brutal, but I guess I don't find myself that often really deeply moved by images of violence. I never had any moments where I thought I couldn't take it.
Not really.
Not really. I mean, that's so weird to say, but like, I don't know, I felt like it was all really interesting to face.
Kind of like a Clockwork Orange. I mean, at least at the beginning, it just kind of like came at me and I was just like, oh God, and it was kind of like, let's put it down. And even like when we first started reading The Pillowman, like I remember like seeing the book in like the corner of my room and it being kind of like scary. Like I really wanted to read it, but it was like, oh God, I don't want to read it.
The War Requiem thing, when you watch actual people die and that poor cute little panda.
In a way, I wanted to walk away from Salome just because the pictures and then we addressed those, but in the way that we sometimes do, we didn't delve into all the connotations that could have.
No, not at all actually. Sometimes there were times when I felt like I wanted to dig more into it because I like wanted to figure out why violence like just brought all these questions up.
War Requiem. The bit with the sheep. War Requiem, that one, where it was just like all like real violence and people dying and just like really gruesome, horrible, and we just watched it, I don't know, it was like a 10-minute, 5-minute long scene, and then like the whole rest of the day I just like didn't feel well and I was just like exhausted emotionally from that, I think.
The day, so Wes and I afterwards just sat and stared at one another while we were eating for like an hour. Just fuck.
That War Requiem footage like really freaked me out, and like made me feel terrible and like, ooh. I mean, yeah, but I think that was definitely like the closest I came to being like, this is not good, like this isn't good for me, like being in this class isn't good for me.
I was pretty vocal about it, but I had a pretty hard time with Luigi. There are other points in different books when you read a passage and you just kind of, your stomach drops and you just sit there. Shit, what do I...
No, I'm pretty okay with violence. The only one thing that really disturbed me was when we saw the clips from Derek Jarman's War Requiem and there were those actual like war clips. Though that actually really disturbed me.
When we were watching Clockwork Orange that I didn't want to see, especially I remember the first time that I saw the scene where they are propping his eyes open and he was watching on the screen. I was just like, oh.
When we were looking at the Vietnam War images, I just didn't eat lunch that day because it was such bad timing. We go from that class to lunch and it's like, well, cool, murder and terrible, terrible things, time to eat.
Do I have to be very G-rated with this?
Oh man.
Oh, this is gonna be hard.
Oh man, okay.
Oh man.
I'm not good at adjectives, and now this is like an English teacher that wants adjectives.
When we were walking to orientation, to our first meeting of this class during orientation, our orientation leader told us, so your advisor is pretty much kind of a badass. She's sort of a punk diva, and I've used those words to describe her to people who don't know her since then.
She's like the coolest person I've ever met.
I say she's the coolest, and you should definitely take a class from her.
She's awesome. I describe her as really cool, and I always mention the fact that she wears orange lipstick and blue eyeliner and like leather jackets. She's just so cool.
Electric. I would definitely say electric in her teaching and in her like style of dressing, and like very bright in like every sense of the word, actually.
I mean, to my friends back in high school, I say she's like our high school English teacher who is amazing, but without a veil of hatred towards everyone and everything.
And she's incredible. Her outfits are so bright, and she's so excited about everything. It's great. It's definitely my favorite professor.
There are times where she can like dominate the discussion, but in a good way, since her ideas are always much better than what I have going on. So, and she is nice outside of the classroom, super nice.
Dr. J kicks ass.
She's awesome and really fun, and she says holy wow.
Colorful in every sense of the word.
Okay, let's see. You can't do this to me. I don't know these answers. Interesting, intelligent, bright colors, provocative. She's like the Socratic method.
Colored pants.
Like Nicole, I described Dr. J as a badass based on what our orientation leader said, and it's so true.
She makes a subject that I'm not interested in, generally interested in. Like, I'm not planning on pursuing a career in literature. She makes it something that I like to do, that I find at least much more interesting than other professors in the past.
I say, guys, I'm in this class, it's called Art and Violence in Literature. It is literally the coolest thing in the whole world. I love my class so much. Everybody in the class is super smart and cool, and our teacher is this like young, super badass lady who like dresses kind of punk and interesting, and like is just the smartest person ever, and it's just so good, and our class just has this awesome chemistry, and I'm super in love with our professor, and it's just great. It's so good. That is how I describe people.